My days are packed. Every hour is kind of scheduled. Working with you really taught me to kind of plan ahead. So the weekends are spent kind of thinking about, all right, what am I going to eat during lunch? What am I going to eat for breakfast? What am I going to eat for dinner? So that way, everything's like planned when it comes to food.
Good morning, everybody. We're on. We're here. We had to just get our volume situated for a minute there, so thanks for being patient, but we're here. Welcome back to the show. Today, I'm so excited to introduce someone who is not just a client, but truly a friend, Ajmer. Ajmer is a full-time working mom of two of the most adorable little ones, Sammy, who's 3, and Sunny, who just turned 1. And on top of all of that, she's a dedicated wife and a psychiatrist. Life is full for this woman. But in the middle of all the beautiful chaos, Esmir made a decision to show up for herself. And over the course of about 4 months total working together, she lost 10 pounds and about 9 inches and transformed her body composition. And fresh off celebrating her 36th birthday, she's walking into this next chapter of her life healthier, stronger, and more confident than ever. But honestly, the numbers are just the bonus. What Ajmer really built is something that no scale can measure. That's healthy habits and a lifestyle that is truly hers. And I cannot wait for you guys to hear her story. So, Ajmer, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for such a sweet introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been so pumped to have you on. So I'm glad that we found a day that worked, and thank you for being here. So let's start from the top, Ajmer. We want to hear from you. I know the EAV crowd is so excited to hear from you, especially. But yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, and those two cuties, Sammy and Sunny.
I don't know what else to add. You shared so much. Yeah, so a little bit about myself. I'm from California. I moved all the way to Atlanta for medical school,
Yeah.
and I met my husband there. And we built this beautiful family with my 2 little kids. And my days are just really busy from the moment I wake up. And I'm so glad that I was able to find this Oxfit family and to make this work. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, yeah. So Cali native, living in Atlanta. And recently we've gotten some time to hang out, which has been really fun outside of working together on the basketball court because
Yes.
our kids this winter played basketball. So he just turned 3,
Hmm.
and Mia, my youngest, is about 3.5, and they had their very first basketball season together, and your husband coached them.
Yes. Oh my God. He had so much fun coaching these little kids.
Oh, it was so fun watching. Yeah, he seemed like he was completely in his element.
Yes, yes, he was, because he loved basketball. And to see him coach these kids who are just kind of like learning how to play the game, sometimes I had to tell him, like, all right, you don't have to take it so seriously. It's okay.
Yeah, yeah, no. I mean, he had the coolest shoes, and so did Sammy. Sammy was like, rocked out there day one, rolling in with some like really cool basketball shoes. My daughter had like unicorns on her shoes.
Yes.
But no, it's been so fun getting to know you more, like inside of the gym, outside of the gym, and you're just so impressive. So I want to hear a little bit more about, like, so you just got off a call. I mean, you are a busy woman. You're a psychiatrist, so you started that. You graduated from Emory, right? And
Yes, I graduated well, I went to Morehouse School of Medicine for medical school and residency, and then I joined Emory for their addiction psychiatry fellowship. And yeah, after that, I started working, and my days can be pretty long depending on how many patients I see. And so I'll go from 8 or 9 a.m. all the way to 5 p.m. And then I have that hour block 12 to 1, which can be lunch or it can be going to Oxfit. It kind of depends. Sometimes, well, actually, a lot of the time, I'll leave Oxfit 10 minutes early just so I could like scarf something down before my 1 o'clock patient.
amazing. Yeah. Talk about, trying to squeeze it all in and prioritizing fitness and nutrition and everything. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, um, how do I do it? It's really hard, right? Because my days are packed. Every hour is kind of scheduled. Working with you really taught me to kind of plan ahead. So the weekends are spent kind of thinking about, all right, what am I going to eat during lunch? What am I going to eat for breakfast? What am I going to eat for dinner? So that way, everything's like planned when it comes to food.
Yeah.
Um, when it comes to the kids, I try and plan ahead too. So I
Mhm.
have their clothes set out for the whole week. So in the morning when I'm getting them ready, I have everything set up for them. So we can just kind of like get like, I don't know, be mindful during the moment, but know that we have everything set up for the most part. And then I just like for 12 to 1, I try my best to go to Oxfit. It's made it a lot easier to know that I'm going to go Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, or I'll go Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Like if I know what days I want to go, I make it an absolute, a non-negotiable. There were days where it was hard to show up. There were days where I didn't go for a week or 2 weeks. There were days where my kids got sick and it really kind of set me back. But you taught me that it's okay. You can come back to it. We can revisit this. If you can't work out 4 days a week, let's try three or let's try two, and then you do a home workout, something like that. So just I guess the overall theme is going to be trying to stay flexible and knowing that if you have to change gears, that's okay. Just
Mm.
work with what you got, but keep going. Don't stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, what a good entry into what we're about to talk about today because life is busy. You are a full time working professional as a psychiatrist. You have two toddlers that are super young, and you have like an
Mhm.
hour in the day to like fit in your fitness, right? And to prioritize that 1 hour, but you do it. And it's because you make it a priority,
Mhm.
and that's so hard. But if you plan ahead, right, and lay out everything, including your workout clothes and everything, you set
Mhm.
yourself up for success. So I'm so excited to like dive into some more of those details about, the mindset that you have, how strong you are, the planning that you do, in detail. I want to know like all about that. But taking a couple steps back first, let's go back a little bit. So you've been with Oxfit for about 14 months now. Which
Wow,
is
that's amazing. I
amazing.
didn't realize that it's been so long.
I know. I made sure to look that up, and I knew it had been about a year because I remembered when we first talked, and we're going to get into that because I want to take it back and hear from you and just reflect on your journey. Um, but let's start before Oxfit. So
Okay.
you've always really been into fitness, Ashmir. Like you have done quite a lot. You've done yoga, you've done hot yoga, you've done Orange Theory. Talk to me a little bit about what you did before Oxfit to stay in shape, and kind of what some of the results were, and maybe if you got stuck, then what led you to Oxfit.
Yeah, yeah. So I've always been kind of into fitness, and the reason why is, I mean, I went into medicine, so there are a lot of different benefits when it comes to physical exercise. One is physical health, right? Like you can keep your weight down, your blood pressure down, things like that. But then also, I tend to be an anxious person by nature. And so being able to go to a hot yoga class or being able to run a mile or do something like that really allowed me to stay grounded and centered before walking into an 8 hour exam or something like that. So, exercising regularly really allowed me to be healthy and get through school and, not want to, I don't know, go down the deep end, right? Because
Yeah.
life can just be so stressful. So I've had seasons where I joined like LA Fitness or I did yoga and things like that.
Mhm.
But there were times where I couldn't go. I would say one specific period is when I was doing my addiction psychiatry fellowship. Like that was my last step in my training.
Mm.
So it really mattered. I had to do almost everything. And when you're in fellowship, nobody's really looking over you. You are finally like the doctor. You're making all the big decisions. So it was a huge adjustment for me, quite honestly. And then on top of that, I was pregnant. So I was going through my last step in training, and then I'm pregnant. My days were long. I would have to stay at the VA like from sunrise to the sunset, right? Like I didn't even see the sun.
Yeah.
And that would mean that I would have to stay in the hospital all day. I wouldn't be able, I mean, I would walk around, see patients, but I wasn't able to really exercise. And by the time I got home, I was really tired.
Yeah.
So it was a very sedentary lifestyle, unfortunately. Um, and what sucked about that is that I ended up having high blood pressure at the end of my pregnancy,
Mm.
which led to a planned induction. And then unfortunately, I ended up having to get an emergency C-section. Uh, but yeah, so like that kind of really like that really like made me focus on like, all right, so I've been kind of physical a lot of my life. I kind of lost track during this training, and this is what ended up happening. And I need to get back on the wagon. I need to get back to like doing exercise, doing what I love. And so when I got pregnant the second time, I really made it a point to say, hey, I don't want to have high blood pressure again. I don't want to end up being at risk for an induction, an emergency C-section, and stuff like that. So what I ended up doing was I joined Orange Theory, and Orange Theory was awesome. Orange Theory was like what, like 5 minutes away from my house. They had a 12 to 1 o'clock session, kind of similar to Oxford, right? And I was able to go in the middle of my day. So like I I made it a point to look for something that I could make work for my life, my schedule.
Hmm.
And so I ended up doing that all throughout my pregnancy. And it worked great. I ended up having a healthy pregnancy, a healthy delivery. Everything went well. And so I had my baby girl and I went on leave. And then once I kind of got through baby blues and things like that, I was just like, you know what? I need to get back into loving me again. I need to get back and get physical again. And that's how I found you guys, because we moved to this house across Burgess Elementary School. And I was looking for gyms all around. And I found you guys. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. And I remember my first call with Savannah, we did a FaceTime, but I actually had to like turn off my camera because I was still nursing, like I was still a mom. And Savannah was so sweet. She was like, "It's okay, it's cool. Let me just ask you a few questions, get to know where you're coming from."
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been great ever since.
Amazing. Yeah. So, yeah, that is so nice to hear again, because I think I remember when your name came through. And I think I might have even called you or texted you personally myself,
Mm,
but then I ended up syncing you up with Savannah, and you did your first like actual video call with her. But we talked about working together at first when you first
mm-hmm.
so I don't know if you remember this, but I wanted to kind of revisit that conversation and just point that out, that there was something in you though in this journey where you were like, I'm going to do this myself. And I think it was maybe because you were a little nervous to work one-on-one with somebody. But we talked at first about following our coaching program and starting our coaching program, but you had just gone back to work, and you were ready, kind of for, I think, more of a group atmosphere, and you wanted to kind of tackle some of the things that you had goal wise, in mind on your own. Right. And so
Mm-hmm.
when you first started out at Oxfit, you started out on our kind of maintenance membership, which is going to classes like on your own. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Yeah.
wasn't until probably 8 months later, I think 9 months later, this past summer, that then you reached out to me, and we started talking about, jumping in and doing the coaching program. So talk a
Yes.
little bit about that journey, like your first 8, 9 months with us, and then what happened to kind of make you reach out to me and then take the next steps to doing our coaching program.
Yeah. So for the first 8 to 9 months, I had periods where I would go 3 or 4 times a week for maybe like a month. And then life would happen. A kid would get sick. And I remember like I would come in and Caitlin would be like, where have you been? And I'm like, life. But
Yeah.
I started to notice like that would happen every couple months or so.
Mm.
And my husband and I, we started talking about considering having like a third kid. And I was like, okay, well, like I started in my mind, I started thinking like, okay, what do I need to do? Have I
Mm,
reached my goal when it comes to health wise? Do I feel like I'm going to be ready for another pregnancy? And I realized that even though I was like going, like there was issues with my adherence, right? Like coming in consistently. And then
mm,
also like my numbers weren't changing. Like even though like I was physical, I was feeling stronger again and I was moving, but like my weight was not really moving. That wasn't really changing. And I really wanted to kind of get as close as I could to my pre-pregnancy weight. I know numbers aren't everything, but
mhm,
I know that that's one factor when it comes to managing your blood pressure. And so I was like, you know what? Like, let me just outreach Lauren. Let me try this one to one because maybe she can help me figure out like what do I need to change, right? Because just going to class 3 times a week and then having periods where you don't go, it wasn't serving me. I wasn't getting to my ultimate goal.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I remember you reached out, and at that point, like, did you have any hesitations about reaching out? Were you a little nervous? Did you have to talk to somebody, that had already worked with me? Like, what was going through your head when you made that ultimate decision?
Yeah, yeah. So I was nervous, right? So I'm so used to going to group classes where it's very easy for you to just kind of like fade away. You just kind of listen to what's being told to you. You aren't. I feel like when you do like a one-on-one, like you're going to be on the spot. Like
Mm,
your progress is going to be looked at specifically, whether you're doing good or you're not following the program. So there was like just internal pressure there. Um,
mm,
yeah, so I did feel nervous. I ended up talking to a couple of the other Oxfit members who worked with you, and I was just like, what was the experience like? Did you like it? How do I take advantage of it? Right. So like
mhm. Yeah.
doing this was it's an investment. It costs more than the regular membership, and I wanted to make it worth it. So I made it a point. Like when I talked to the other Oxfit members, I was like, how do you take advantage of Lauren's time? What do I need to do to make sure that it works for me? Because you're not like it's not just you helping me. Like I have to show up too, right? Like you could
Yeah.
show me the way, but I may not always follow it, right? So I needed to know what I needed to have in order to get ready to work with you. And knowing that a lot of people really enjoyed working with you, everything went well. Some people told me like when she tells you to do those ab exercises, do them. Like try your best to stay consistent. And yeah, so then that ended up helping me like gain the confidence to contact you. But also like you're super friendly, and I kind of grounded myself and I'm like, you know what? I'm nervous for my own reasons. Lauren's a great person. Everything will be okay. Let me just show up as I am. Let me tell her where I'm at and where I want to go. And then let's work together.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I was so glad you did. And when you did, I was just jumping for joy. I think I scheduled our session like the next day. Um, but you had a really big why, behind why you wanted to do it as well, which was super
Mhm.
inspiring. And like you already touched on, there were things you wanted to see move on the scale, right? You wanted to get, the weight off, but the why behind it wasn't just, for looks or, vanity, which is also very valid and important if that is like how, as a mom, you want to feel and be seen. But, for you, it really was like taking control of this high blood pressure, that
Mhm.
you had and those experiences that you had that were scary for you, when you delivered. Was it with Sammy and Sunny that you had high blood pressure or?
So it was with Sammy.
Yeah.
Having to get an induction when I wanted to do it naturally, and then for that to turn out into like an emergency C-section. And I talk to patients all the time. Like I see a lot of postpartum patients and I talk to them about postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression, and a lot of people don't even talk about like the trauma that the delivery can have.
Mm,
And then when I like that emergency C-section, it was complicated. There were different variables, but when I think back to what I could have controlled, if I could have controlled my blood pressure, that whole thing could have turned out a lot differently.
yeah.
And I ended up doing things a lot differently when I was pregnant with Sunny. I made sure that I tried to not gain so much weight. I made sure that I was physical. I made sure my blood pressure was down, and that ended up leading to a completely natural birth. And I didn't have to get an induction. You know, I didn't have an emergency C-section. So yeah, so it worked out.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. And so, I think it's safe to talk about, right, that you were like at this point where you were like, you wanted, the weight to come off after Sunny and to be in that same position, right? Like, or
Mhm.
to get to that point where you feel confident in your body and your numbers are good and you're now considering, having a third child, right? So the why behind why you did this and why you're sustaining the results is it's a really big deal.
Yes, yes. I would say that, when it comes to motivation, it can always wax and wane. But then when I think about my why, when I think about doing this to help my family, to be able to have a healthy pregnancy, to be able to show up for my kids and be physical with my kids, like it makes it all the like 10 times more worth it.
Yeah.
Um, I know that I kid you not, as silly as this may sound, like there are times where even if I'm getting tired in class, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I'm like, if I can do this workout, I'll be able to run with my kids. I'm so thankful for my body. I'm so thankful that my body can move. Like, let's do this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, I've bumped into you at Brownwood Park on the weekends while we're both
Yes.
like at birthday parties or whatever. And, we've got one baby slung in
Right?
our arm here. We're chasing the toddler in the opposite
Exactly.
direction, and we're like waving to each other, like, hey, Ashmere. But like, you
But
know,
we still have to keep our eyes. My son will go anywhere. I tell him stop, he still goes, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh."
yeah, yeah. I mean, absolutely. And thank goodness for the fitness that you've, gained and sustained because, we're able to kind of laugh and see each other and chuckle and we're like running off in different directions. But I mean, yeah, I want to just admire you and tell you how proud I am of you, especially for like, so we're both moms with very young babies, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
like, you keep telling me how proud you are of me, like, I'm just like, "Lauren, how do you do it?"
oh, girl, we're all in it together, right? It takes a village, and like, yeah, I'm lucky to have the Oxfit mom community, but and the amazing moms and dads in our community, but. But yeah, I mean, but you're in it. Like I'm starting to come out of it a little bit because I've got a 5 and 3-year-old, right? Like
Mm.
5.5, 3.5.
They're,
So
like, out of diapers, you don't y everybody's
yeah,
potty trained.
like it's going, I see the light, like they can play together for like 20 minutes, maybe, tops, but still they can play together a little bit without like killing each other. And like, I can,
Mm,
maybe start a meal or something, but you are in it. Like you've got 3 and 1-year-old. So,
yeah.
and like on top of that, this fall, when you said yes to yourself, or I guess it was end of summer, and you chose to, take it to the next level, you really dialed in on your why, and you were like, I'm going to commit to me and I want to see some real changes, right? It wasn't like everything was stacked up perfectly though, like timing wise, right? Because man, Ajmer, you had 3 birthdays. Sammy,
Yeah,
Sunny, yourself, you had a bachelorette weekend. You didn't you go to Disney for like a week?
I
Like
did.
you got a new job, like
Yeah.
all these things. As I was prepping for our conversation today, I was literally reflecting on all your journals and videos and check-ins and stuff. And I was like, most people would say, I can't commit to that right now, Lauren,
Mhm.
right? Like I want to do it, but I can't commit right now because life is so busy and maybe I'll do this in the new year or something like
Mhm.
that, right? But you chose to take action when the motivation was high, when you felt the need to do it, and you didn't use those things as excuses, and like I think it's fair to say, and I think you'll agree, right, that like the program maybe wasn't executed perfectly, right? and
Yeah.
and that's okay, but you stayed consistent, you followed it as much as you could, I would say like 70-80% of the time, like, plus. And even if I didn't see your journals or your video check-ins, like I knew you were adhering to, the nutrition portion and working out when you could. And I was sending you home workouts and like you were just
Mhm.
trying to keep your activity levels up, but look at you now, like it's, January, February 2026. And instead of using all of that in the fall as excuses for why you couldn't start yet, like you have gotten some amazing results, which, we'll get to and dive into in a minute. But yeah, so like talk a little bit about that journey for you mentally, like you got started and how did the program go after we started working together?
Yeah, yeah. So, like you said, there was just so much life happening, and but I still decided to do it. And I would say one of the reasons why is because after becoming a mom, I realized that it's never going to stop. There's always going to be something, and waiting for that perfect moment, you could be waiting forever. And then also like it's not about going into something that you know you're going to like complete 100% or be successful 100%. Like that's not guaranteed. So like you can
Mhm,
try and find that perfect time so you know you can like complete it. But realistically that's not going to happen. So like in my mind, I kind of told myself, I was like, you know what? I've never done this before. I have my why. Let's just try it. Let's do whatever I can, and then after I do it, like I'll have some lessons. I'll be able to figure out what I need to do next. But let's try this. Like something needs to change. What I'm doing is not working on my own. It's not working. um Once I started working with you, life was lifing. And yeah, so like I started off strong. I did the Excel sheet. I signed up for meal prep so I didn't have to worry about breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Like I did the things. And then I think like in a couple weeks, like I'm sure you noticed, like I wasn't filling out the Excel sheet as much. Even like the on the Fridays, like to give you a video check-in, like sometimes that I didn't do that.
mhm,
Um yeah, it just got really hard, and because there were nights where like I was not sleeping. Like if one kid woke up and then I got her to sleep, the other kid would wake up. Like it just got exhausting. But I knew that like you would check in with me, and so I did my best. I was just like, at times I was just like, you know what, I can't do this, but maybe I can do X, Y, and Z. Maybe what I can do is I can just meet my water goal this week, and let's just do that. And then the next week I'll do water goal and I'll do something else. Or I started to think, all right, so why can't I fill out this Excel sheet? Like, what's going on? And the Excel sheet for me personally, like I spend all my day on the computer, and the Excel sheet is on the computer. And I was just like, you know what? I can't do it. I don't want to fill this out. And
yeah,
I told you that, and you're like, well, it's okay. Just like text me or something like that. And then we ended up using this app.
mhm.
I forget, like Fit,
My fitness
no,
gal.
My Fitness. Yes, yes. And so that really allowed me to just like, all right, if I have a workout, I do that. If I finish my water, I do that. I log my food on that. Like that was super helpful. So whatever like roadblocks I had, I at least I tried my best to kind of communicate it with you. And every single time I did, you figured out a plan B, a plan C.
Mm,
I know like when my workout started to wane, or like when I had to travel to go see my family, to go to Disney World, right? Like you gave me home workouts. Like I remember going or being at the hotel and like jumping over pillows and doing burpees just so I could get a workout in, like a 10-minute, 15-minute workout in before I spend my whole day with my family, right? So there were ways around it. You were so flexible with me, and I think that really helped me to say, "Hey, okay, I can do this. I'm not doing it perfectly, but I'm doing something that counts."
You're not out of shape because you're lazy. You're exhausted because you've been putting everyone else first. The random workout squeezed between school pickup and bedtime, the diet you start Monday morning and abandon by Thursday when someone's sick, the I'll get back to it promise you make yourself again and again. Not because you don't care about your health, but because nothing fits your actual life. So you get a few good weeks in. Then it all falls apart the moment a kid needs you, work gets crazy, or you're just too damn tired to think about meal prep. This is where OpsFit's coaching program comes in. This isn't another 8-week boot camp or Instagram workout you can't keep up with. It's a real plan, training that works around your schedule, nutrition that doesn't require cooking 3 separate meals, and a coach who gets that some weeks you're just in survival mode. We help you lose the baby weight, build back the strength you miss, and finally feel like you again. You don't need more guilt. You don't need another supplement gathering dust in your pantry. And you don't need to wait until the kids are older or life calms down. You need a system that bends without breaking. And you need a coach who won't let you disappear on yourself. OxFit coaching helps you build a strong body and a strong mind, so taking care of yourself isn't something you keep restarting. It's just what you do. Join OxFit and let this be the last time you put yourself at the bottom of the list. Yeah. Oh, that's so awesome to hear. Yeah. And you still did the plan B and the plan C, which was awesome. Like we were able to meet you where you were, right?
Mhm.
And ultimately just establish those basic habits that once we kind of started to slowly see some success, and check off the water goal, right? And check off the eat paleo and clean.
Mhm.
As clean as possible, sticking to kind of the perimeter of the grocery store, right? You were
Mhm.
able to do that. You were able to layer on a few workouts in some form, whether it was at OxFit or, jumping over pillows in a hotel room with your kids, or a walk, or hopping on your Peloton quick at home if you needed to. You
Yeah.
were just kind of like stacking those habits, and maybe it didn't look exactly as we always wanted it to every week, but you know
Yeah.
the consistency over the perfectly executed plan, will
Exactly.
always win. And it got you, some awesome results. But what I do remember, I want to touch on before we get into your results is just kind of, I want to hear from you, like what you thought about the paleo style, way of eating when we first started that, because I know you love your like dairy and, and you, like you mentioned to me in conversation, like your tea with milk in it and stuff. So like we eliminated that for a while. And even though you couldn't execute kind of like all of the habits, right away, at least, which we don't necessarily expect, but I think really at the foundation of the program, you followed that nutrition plan at least 80% of the time and learned a lot, I think, from how your body really started to
Mhm.
respond, from it while you were still breastfeeding too. I think you were at the time just starting to wean off breastfeeding, right?
Yes.
So yeah, like how was that adopting the paleo style, way of eating for you? And how did it feel initially?
Yeah. I'm gonna take us back. So when we had our first meeting, we were at EAV, we're sitting on that couch, and you're showing me the paleo style diet, and you're like, okay, these are the things that you can eat. These are my suggestions. And I'm like looking through the list and I'm like, oh my God, there's no milk. I love my tea, like you said. And there were a lot of brands that I didn't even know. I was like, what is this? And you're like, it's okay, it's at Publix, you can go to the grocery store, you can go to Costco. And so it was like a big pill to swallow. It was like a huge adjustment right there because I knew that, all right, I I'm gonna make these changes. I want to follow this, but I'm gonna come home and my husband's gonna have his coffee with his usual creamer, and he's gonna want X, Y, and Z for dinner. And I have two little kids that,
Mm,
one day don't eat broccoli, and then the next day they eat the whole thing. Like it's just like a gamble, right? And I was like, how am I gonna be able to stick with this, but also have a family that like I can't make them do the changes too. But what I ended up doing was I stuck with like I looked at that list and I was like, okay, well, let me like pick a few. Let me just like okay. I was like, okay, I love my coffee. Let's just change my creamer. Like let's do nut pod. Um, and then there were other things that I ended up implementing, but it wasn't just like 100%. Like you said, I did 80%, right? And part of the reason why I was able to get to 80% is because I told myself, in order to make these changes, like I was realistic. This is not going to be easy. These habits, they were formed over years. I'm 36, right? Like you were asking me to change like a diet that was built over 36 years. I wasn't going to be able to do that in 6 weeks. And so but I told myself, I was like, at least I can make three changes. And the next week I can add this on, stuff like that.
yeah.
So that made it totally doable. And to my surprise, because I made these because I made these changes, and like I changed what was in my household, my kids, my husband, they ended up using the same stuff. Like my husband uses the nut pod, my kids eat different stuff now, right? Like we really focus on the protein, we focus on the vegetables. Like we're not 100%, but we've actually made like positive changes, and it happened quite naturally to my surprise. It just came down to me like throwing out the bad stuff and putting in the new stuff. And yeah,
Mhm.
there were some things that they were like, oh, I don't really like this, but for the most part, like they took on. So that was great. So mentally it was a lot, but once I took action and I found like steps that I could take action on, I got going and I was able to kind of stick with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, it was so cool to watch you implement it and to take that approach, and not to just, instead say, oh, I can't do this and kind of give up, like I've had, moms, not that they've given up, but have been so overwhelmed that they couldn't see how it could work and how that they could actually follow this and feed their children and, their partner as well. But you had a whole lot of trust in me in the process, and we started simple and we, layered things in, and we weren't perfect, but you still got results, and that worked for you, right? Like you were able to adopt this style of eating and this lifestyle approach that eventually got you to a point where you're really happy with the results, but also, was able to integrate it into your life with your family, and you led by example, didn't force it, but maybe just introducing these things to them got them curious
Hmm.
and got them involved. It's really cool to see that. Like, it's like when I'm cooking in the kitchen and my kids are like, what is she doing? You're banging around, and they get curious, and then they come in and then they start trying things,
Hmm.
so yeah, I think the key there is you took action and you trusted the process, and then you started to just see, the
Hmm.
results. And that style of eating, doesn't have to be super complicated. It really is pretty simple, right? Sticking to clean, unprocessed foods, removing sugar, focusing on healthy, fats, nuts, veggies, fruit, and lean sources of protein, as much as possible. And I think for you with the high blood pressure in the past, it was, such a good way to start, because you started seeing, like, initially, and I want you to talk about this, but like some inflammation kind of coming out, right? And I
Yeah.
think overall, like, less energy crashes and stuff. So like when you first started, you know, it's 4 weeks, 6 weeks in, like what were some of the benefits you were experiencing and seeing? Like, and did anything surprise you that you, like, started to feel quickly or early on?
Yeah. So one of the first changes was my energy level. So I started to feel just like lighter and I had more energy. I noticed that I wasn't drinking as much coffee.
Mm,
And with the inflammation part, like I actually didn't notice that until we do the check-in and we take the pictures like that, like to see that was
yeah.
cool. I didn't really notice it. I mean, I didn't really expect it to make that big of a difference. I didn't know that, but it actually did. Um, so those would be the two big things. And an aside, I just want to mention, um, I remember telling you, like, when I had to go back home, I was like, Lauren, how do I stick with this diet? Like, my family
Hmm.
loves sweets. Like, how do I do this? And I remember getting your call, and you were just like, okay, well, like when you go to certain restaurants, you can order X, Y, and Z, or, like you gave me certain accommodations that allowed me to continue, even when I was traveling, to be able to do the best I could. And so that was super helpful. And then also, like, another note, there were times where everybody around me was eating like how I used to eat, and they had the fries and they had, I don't know, all the things. But knowing that I had like guidelines with this paleo diet, I'm like, okay, well, I can just eat X, Y, and Z. Sometimes it was hard, but a lot of the times it was just like it made things super simple. Like I was just like, you know what? Like that's not an option for me. I can't do that. So this is what I'm gonna eat. And I enjoyed that part actually. It allowed me to kind of like push away all the not so good stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I know, amazing. Boundaries can even help us, right? We set boundaries with our food,
Yeah.
but like, and talk about that real quick. Like, what is it like having, you have the guidelines, so the knowledge, now is there, right? And you could have maybe tried to run with it on your own, from there. But you continue to work with me, and you extended the program even a couple months, and I assume that was because you appreciated the accountability you were getting, and the knowledge was there. We were layering in, more complexities as we kind of saw results. But why did you, I guess, continue working with me?
Mhm. Yeah, so I continued working with you because it was helpful to have you as an accountability partner. It was also helpful to kind of just like share with you, all right, this is what's going on. What do you think? Like what are your suggestions? I know like I think at one point I like asked you about there was like news about protein powders and lead content and things like that. So like just like your feedback, your knowledge, accountability was huge. That like made me feel like, all right, I've seen this much change. Maybe I just need to, work with her a little bit longer so then I can like get closer to my goal and then I'll be able to kind of like start implementing it on my own. But there's nothing better than knowing that at the end of the week, like Lauren's going to check in with you about your progress. So having that in the back of my mind really like pushed me to be like, all right, yeah, this is important. Like I have my why, but I also have Lauren that's going to like send me a message on Friday and I need to have something for her.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, yeah, you felt like that accountability of I want to have something to report on, and like
Hmm.
let her know that even if I'm not recording it, I knew you were following it. And we were, keeping in touch, texting, etc., trying to like find whatever, ways that you knew that I was still there, like supporting
Yeah.
you and cheering you on, and, a resource for whenever you needed me, even if it wasn't, during a formal check-in or whatever. We were still in constant, communication with each other and stuff. And so, before we jump into kind of results overall, like as a psychiatrist throughout that journey for you, did you tap into like any, strategies or tools, that you had picked up from your, background in studying, the kind of mental, journey that it takes to, overcome something hard, right? Like,
Hmm.
were there any points where, you were like, this is tough, and, I'm going to lean into this? Or was there anything that, surprised you with regards to kind of like the mental, journey of this? Because it's tough.
Yes, yes. Let's see. So I know that like I when we started out, I was really strong. I was doing all the things. And then when life started lifing and I wasn't filling out the Excel sheet or I wasn't showing up to work, that's when I really tapped into the idea that I don't have to be perfect at this, right? Like I have my why and that's valid. And I still
Mm,
have every reason to pursue this. And it's okay that I'm not doing this perfectly, but it doesn't mean I have to give up. It doesn't mean that I just say like call it quits. I can't do this.
yeah.
Psychologically, that would be called like an all or nothing sort of mindset. Like you can either do it or you can't, and that's not true. That's not life. So I reflected on that and I told myself, you know what, even if I'm not doing this perfectly, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. Lauren's going to meet me where I'm at and we're going to figure out something. And I remember like sending you a message like, Lauren, all I did was meet my water goal. That's all I could do this week. And you didn't reprimand me. Like I didn't feel like I was in trouble. You were just like, okay, I get it. Let's do this. Like maybe you can do XYZ. And so
Yeah.
that's what really helped me, like getting over that hump of like, it's okay if you don't get this perfectly.
Mm.
Let's just make the most of what we have.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a real joy working with you for that reason too, and seeing that and talking about it now with you. I see how you did always kind of adopt that, mentality, and that is something that is not the concept of it sounds easy, right? But it's not necessarily, or simple, but not it's not easy to execute on, right? A lot of
Yeah.
people can tie to their identity, like, the success that they're seeing in the check boxes. And if they're not checking everything off, like, it's easy to feel like a failure. And then for you to attach that to you as a personality almost, and then, to fall apart and crumble and like give up, but No, that it's really inspiring. And I think that's a huge thing that if anyone's listening and will listen to in the future from you is like, I mean, look at what Ajmer accomplished in four months, and like it wasn't perfect. She really was not perfect, but she still, results wise, I'm going to rattle off some right now. So over the 4 months that we worked together, and this might be even, you might be able to update these, now for me too. But in 4 months, Ajmer lost about 10 pounds, 9 inches. About 5 to 6 of those were in her stomach, which is an area that is a sensitive area for women after babies, right? Was able to increase her plank hold by 20 seconds. Went from 1 full push-up to 4 full push-ups. She increased her ring rows, unbroken ring rows, from 20 to 30. And now she is deadlifting, her body weight and more. She's been bench pressing 70 pounds for 5 reps. And I think you just back squatted as well, 85 pounds for 5 reps. So some just incredible results. And if you've seen her photos, I mean, she looks so strong and healthy and happy and confident, right? And so I'll give you a second here to kind of comment on that. Is there anything you want to add? How do you feel about those results?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like I think it's so cool that at Oxfit you guys are recording everything. I know like initially, I mean still some days I'm like, what did I back squat last time? I don't remember all the numbers, but to be able to kind of sit back and then see the progress, the change, it really reminds you that showing up, whether it's 3 days a week or 2 days a week or whatever, just as long as you can stay consistent, there's going to be change. And you guys have the record to show that. I'm so not used to seeing that over like a 14-month span. And so that's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so glad you enjoy that, because yeah, it's very intentional. It's, something that we pride ourselves in, being able to collect the data, not only from, us working together personally, and from the nutrition side of things and how your body changed and everything, but also the strength gains that you get. Cause it's not just about the scale, right? Like a certain
Hmm.
component of that was very important because blood pressure can be negatively impacted by, additional weight that, maybe we don't need on our bodies, right? So like,
Hmm.
you know, you wanted to lose some weight and you did, but also look at all of these other gains that you were able to get, right? Which is like the true like mom strength stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
being able to deadlift. I think you deadlifted for, what was it, a few reps, 145, which
Yeah.
is, I mean, that's incredible. That's more than you weigh, so
Hmm.
like that's so
Hmm.
cool. So cool. Yeah. So kind of overall, Ajmer, like how has your kind of confidence in day-to-day life now sort of changed or been impacted by doing this coaching program?
Mm, okay. I would say what's really changed, and I'm not perfect, let me just preface that, is what I can tolerate with my kiddos. So, like, as a psychiatrist, I'm very calm. I can deal with behavioral codes, right? Like, things escalate and stuff. But on my day to day, like in real life, like my husband knows, like sometimes I can have a temper and my
Mhm.
patience can be short. But I would say, like, after staying consistent with these workouts, like just like what I can tolerate with my kiddos, and maybe my son's not listening to me for the third time, right? Like I can think outside of that and be like, all right, maybe I need to change my tone, maybe I need to do this, maybe I can make it a joke, like I have more flexibility there.
Mm.
And I'm not just, and maybe it's just because like I have more energy, I'm not as drained as before. Like, yeah, I would need a coffee to get started. I would need a midday coffee, right? Like while I was staying more consistent with the program, like I was only drinking coffee during the day, and my mood was better throughout. So I would say like that's really changed. So my how I engage with my kids, that's what I appreciate the most.
Amazing. Yeah, that is so good, Ajmer. Yeah. And that is it really it's such a knock-on effect to everything because if you're more patient with your kids, you feel better yourself, like you're more proud of yourself, right? As a mom, as a person, like you don't hold any shame. You don't feel embarrassed or bad or guilty, for being short with them. I've had
Mhm.
seasons where, that has been the case myself. And it is always like a point of reflection for me, an inward reflection of like what went wrong today for me, right? Like, and
Yeah.
it often does lead to like, did I underfuel? Like, did I skip a meal? Am I grouchy because I'm hungry? Like, did I not
Hmm.
work out so I didn't get any endorphins today? Like, did I not prioritize me in any way today?
Yeah.
And it can lead to, you being short with the people that you love the most
Yeah.
in the world. So that is like the best thing that, yeah, you've said, like, that's such a huge win, beyond the scale, beyond, like all the other metrics. But you deserve all of that though, because you're such an impressive person, a mom, a friend, a wife, so you deserve all the things, Ajmer. And I'm just so glad that you were able to get them through this. So, maybe two more questions and then I'll let you go because I know how busy you are. But, what would you say to another mom, who might feel stuck in the gym, or isn't maybe seeing the results that she wants and is afraid to reach out and get started with the coaching program?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what would you say to her if someone came to you?
I would say if you have a goal, if you're not where you want to be now, just take it to Oxfit, take it to Lauren, and share with them what the goal is, and just show up as you are. Don't feel pressured to know how to bench press or anything like that. Just take the idea there, and then you guys will give some guidance, and just go for it. And don't feel like life has to be perfect, or and don't be afraid to not execute it 100%. It's okay. Like, just don't stop. Don't feel like a failure. Like, keep going. There are ways around it. Yeah, that's
Mm,
probably. And then I would also say, like, to the person that feels intimidated by this, by joining a new gym, I would say that Oxfit is very different. We earlier we talked about, like, I went to LA Fitness, I would join yoga, classes and stuff like that. And in all that, like, I didn't really get to know the person next to me. I mean, the only person I really get to know is the coach. I mean, the teacher.
yeah.
But outside of that, like, I didn't really know anybody else unless I took my friend with me.
Mm,
And so, uh, even though it was like a stress relief, it was still kind of like isolating, right? It wasn't a social experience. But when you sign up for Oxfit, like, the first email says, like, before every class, you gotta know everybody's name. And I remember reading that, and I told my husband. He was like, "What, really? Like, I've never seen that in a gym." And it turns out, like, it's really awesome that you guys do that, because it changes it from just like going to a gym to like building a community, like having a sense of purpose when you go. Like, I know, like, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I really, like, did not want to go to the gym. I was tired. I didn't sleep last night. Like, I had a full day of patients, right? But I was like, you know what? If I don't go, I'm not gonna be able to say hi to Mark. Which, it sounds weird, but honestly, like, and I told Mark this, but and I went, and he wasn't even there. But 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 like, it just kind of shows, like, like, that's my community outside of my work day. And it gives me purpose, and so that's what Oxfit will do for anybody. And as a psychiatrist, like, I spend a lot of time talking to patients who struggle with anxiety, struggle with depression, and I ask them, like, who's your community, who's your support, where do you find purpose? And this is a place where you can find that, so it's awesome.
I just got goosebumps. Yeah, that was so great. Thank you for sharing that, especially,
Yeah.
from someone in that world, that's something that, yeah, it does. It means a lot to have a group of people around you that, are
Mhm.
like, I say like-minded, but like positive in spirit, like are, there to uplift and support. And I think that, does represent and embody really, as an co-owner of Oxfit, right? Like what we try to live through, our coaches, every one of them lives that. And then it bleeds down into our members, and members like you that are leaders, in the gym and in the community. So thank you for being a part of it. And thank you for, taking out of it what you need, and, lifting other people around you as well. You're such an inspiration, for, people and moms in the community. So it's been really such a pleasure. And then last thing before we go, if you had to or could describe, what working with me in the Oxfit coaching program was like in like one sentence, what would it be?
Man, that's a hard question to answer. Oh, huh. What was it like? Mm.
Yeah, no rush. One sentence. Describe the program, even whatever words you got out of it, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I would say like um it's I'm having a hard time formulating the sentence, but the idea is you're working with people who care.
mm,
Right? So, like, I wasn't just another person who, like, signed up for this gym. I was a schmear, and I was a mom with 2 kids, and, and this is where she wants to go. Like, I was seen as a person, like, you guys genuinely care. Every single time I walk in, I see Caitlin, I see Aunt, you guys are asking me how I'm doing. Like, it's different. I'm seen as an individual person.
mm.
Um, yeah. So I
Well,
guess if I should choose a word, like caring. Yeah.
yeah, I love that. I love that. Feel seen and you're cared for. And we do. We see you and we care for you, Ajmer. So thank you so much for firstly joining me on this and telling your journey and reliving it with me on this podcast. It's been so fun. And gosh, I hope that you can reflect on all of this that we just talked about and just be so proud of yourself and keep going because you're just so amazing and we love having you in our community. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you too. And you're amazing as well. You set the bar high. You set such a good example, and I really appreciate everything you do.
Thanks, Ajmer. All right. I'll see you in the gym soon.
All right. See you later. Bye.
Bye.